When a woman opens up and starts telling you her problems, most men instantly go into fix mode. They interrupt, give advice, or try to solve everything she says. But that's not what she's actually looking for. When a woman starts sharing her struggles, frustrations, or emotions, what she's really doing is revealing trust and testing your emotional strength. See, women rarely open up. To men they don't respect on some level. They might talk casually with anyone, but when they start expressing what's really bothering them, whether it's about work, friends, or her personal life, it's a sign she's inviting you into her emotional space, that sacred ground in the modern dating world. And how you handle that moment will determine everything that happens next. The Stoic man knows this. He doesn't rush to fix, to prove, or to lecture. He understands that most of the time she doesn't want solutions. She wants to feel safe expressing herself. She wants to see if you can handle her emotions without breaking your calm. Because how you respond tells her exactly what kind of man you are, reactive or grounded. The men who fail this test usually talk too much, take things personally, or get frustrated when she keeps venting. The man who passes listens quietly, speaks with intention, and stays centered. He doesn't lose his balance when she's emotional because he knows her words aren't an attack. They're a reflection of trust. When she shares her problems, it's not random. It's communication on a deeper level. Her way of saying, "Can you handle me when I'm not easy to handle?" If you can, she'll open up more. If you can't, she'll pull back and never say it directly. This video will show you the 7 signs, strategies, and Stoic principles that will help you understand what she really wants when she tells you her problems, and how to respond in a way that earns her respect, attraction, and emotional loyalty. 1. Don't fix her, feel her. When a woman tells you her problems, your first instinct as a man is to solve them. You hear an issue, your mind looks for an answer. Now, that's what men do, but when it comes to women, that instinct can actually push her away. Because most of the time, she's not asking for a solution. She's revealing vulnerability. And vulnerability isn't a problem to fix, it's a moment to connect. When she starts opening up, she's not measuring your intelligence. She's measuring your emotional presence. She wants to know if you can stay calm in the face of her chaos. She's watching your tone, your patience, and your ability to stay grounded while she unloads. The Stoic man understands this. He listens without rushing. He lets her speak. He nods, maintains soft eye contact, and absorbs what she's saying. He doesn't interrupt or start comparing her story to his. He doesn't say, "You should do this," or "Here's what I would do." He simply holds space. That presence alone can calm her more than any piece of advice ever could. You see, women are emotionally intelligent by nature. They don't just hear your words, they feel your energy. When she opens up and you immediately try to fix things, it tells her you're uncomfortable with emotion. It tells her you don't know how to just be. But when you can sit there, stay silent, and let her express herself without losing your balance, you show maturity. That's what builds emotional trust. This doesn't mean you should be passive or detached. If she asks for advice, give it calmly and briefly. But the key is to let her lead emotionally. She wants to release what's weighing on her, and the man who can absorb that energy without judgment becomes unforgettable. The truth is, most men are afraid of women's emotions. They think intensity means instability. But a Stoic man knows emotions are just waves. They rise, they fall, and they pass. You don't fight the wave, you stand firm in it. When you stop trying to fix her and start simply feeling with her, everything changes. She starts associating your presence with peace. She starts trusting you enough to share more. That's when attraction deepens. Not through your words, but through your energy. So next time she tells you her problems, pause. Breathe. Don't rush to respond. Let her see that you can handle her emotions without losing control of yours. That's what separates the man she forgets from the one she never does. 2. Be her calm, not her echo. When a woman comes to you with her problems, she's not looking for someone to join her emotions. She's looking for someone to balance them. Most men make the mistake of mirroring her energy. Hey, if she's upset, they get defensive. If she's emotional, they get emotional too. That only adds fire to fire. The man she remembers stays calm, grounded, and unmoved. He becomes her anchor when her world feels unstable. Stoicism isn't about being cold or detached. It's about emotional discipline. You control your reactions. You let her express herself fully without letting her emotions drag you into chaos. That calmness is power, not dominance, but control. And control creates safety. Here's the truth most men miss. When a woman is emotional, she doesn't need a man who feels exactly what she feels. She needs a man who can help her return to balance. Your energy sets the tone. If you stay calm, she subconsciously mirrors that stability. If you lose composure, she spirals even more. When she vents, don't rush to silence her. Don't try to logic her out of how she feels. Just listen and stay centered. Sometimes she'll say things that sound exaggerated or unfair. Don't take the bait. Don't make it about your ego. Just breathe, nod, and respond with presence. A simple "I hear you" can carry more weight than a full speech. What women remember most about emotionally strong men is not what they say. It's how they make them feel in their emotional moments. When you remain composed, it sends a clear message. You can be emotional around me, and I won't fall apart. That message builds deep trust and quiet admiration. Women test men emotionally without even realizing it. They'll throw attitude, frustration, or even tears just to see if you can handle it. Not because they enjoy it, but because they need to know your emotional frame is stronger than theirs. If you pass that test, if you stay grounded and patient, she'll start seeing you as a man she can depend on. Don't try to solve her storm. Be the eye of it. Be the steady energy she finds peace in. When you can absorb her emotion without judgment, she'll naturally calm down. Not because you forced her to, but because your calm became contagious. The more you practice this, the more you'll notice something powerful. She'll start coming to you first when things go wrong. Not because you're her therapist, but because you've become her peace. And a man who becomes a woman's peace becomes unforgettable. Stay calm, stay still, stay in control. That's how you separate yourself from every man who panics when a woman gets emotional. 3. Listen for the emotion, not the words. When a woman tells you her problems, what she says on the surface is rarely the full message. She might talk about work stress, a friend issue, or how she just feels off, but underneath that, she's expressing emotion. She's communicating something she doesn't always have the words for, like frustration, fear, loneliness, or confusion. Most men miss that part. They listen to the words instead of the emotion behind them. Stoic men know better. They listen with awareness, not impatience. They don't just hear the sentences, they hear the feeling underneath. That's what separates surface-level conversations from real emotional connection. Here's an example. She might say, "My boss is so annoying." Most guys respond with advice. "You should talk to HR," or "just ignore him." But the emotionally grounded man listens deeper. He hears that she's not just annoyed, she feels unappreciated. So instead of giving solutions, he says something simple like, "That sounds draining." You put in so much effort and it's like no one even notices. Suddenly she feels understood. That's the key. Women don't remember the man who gives the smartest advice. They remember the one who gets them. Because when she feels emotionally understood, she relaxes around you. Her guard drops. She trusts you more. Not because you fixed her problem, but because you felt it with her. Listening for emotion means you stop trying to win the conversation. You're not waiting for your turn to talk. You're present. You catch the small details. The change in her tone, her body language, the sigh before she speaks. You don't judge it. You read it. You see the emotion behind the behavior. The truth is, most men listen to respond, not to understand. They rush to fill silence because they're uncomfortable with emotional space. But silence is powerful. It gives her room to process. It shows her that her emotions don't scare you. The Stoic man practices active stillness, listening with calm, holding eye contact, and responding only when necessary. This isn't about pretending to be a therapist. It's about being emotionally grounded. You don't absorb her negativity, you just witness it. That's what presence really means. Women test emotional awareness all the time. If she says something small and you ignore it, she notices. If you pick up on it and respond gently, she feels seen. And feeling seen is one of the deepest emotional experiences a woman can have. So when she tells you her problems, stop hearing noise. Hear emotion. Read between the lines. Listen not just with your ears, but with your awareness. Because the man who can understand her emotions without her having to explain them, that's the man she keeps thinking about. Always. 4. Don't take her emotions personally. When a woman opens up about her problems, she's often venting from a place of emotional overload. She's releasing pressure, not attacking you. But many men misunderstand this. They hear frustration and immediately go into defense mode. They think her tone, her mood, or her attitude is about them. It's not. Most of the time, it's just emotion looking for space. And when you make her feelings about you, you fail the moment. A stoic man doesn't take emotional expression personally. He knows that emotions are temporary waves. They rise, crash, and fade. His job isn't to fight them or fix them. It's to stay steady while they pass. That's emotional mastery. Calm presence in the middle of someone else's storm. When she vents, she might sound impatient, irritated, or even distant. But it's not always a reflection of how she feels about you. It's a reflection of how safe she feels around you. If she's expressing emotions, it means she trusts that you can handle it. The moment you get defensive, raising your voice, walking away, or shutting down, you break that safety. You turn a moment of trust into a moment of distance. Here's what most men don't realize. A woman's emotions are fluid. She can be upset one moment and peaceful the next. She's not being inconsistent. She's processing. When you stay calm during that process, she begins to associate your presence with relief. You become the calm after the chaos. But when you take it personally, you join the chaos, and she loses respect. Being stoic doesn't mean being emotionless. It means understanding that your emotions are yours to control, not hers to manage. You don't mirror her frustration. You don't match her tone. You remain firm, centered, and grounded. That's what earns respect. If she says something that sounds sharp, don't react. Pause, breathe, observe. Sometimes her words aren't literal, and they're emotional language. She's expressing intensity, not logic. Respond calmly, not defensively. A simple, "I understand you're frustrated," can de-escalate more than a 5-minute argument ever could. Over time, she'll notice that you don't crumble under emotion. That's when real trust forms. Because now she knows that even at her most emotional, she's safe with you. You don't run, argue, or shut down. You hold your ground without trying to control her. That's quiet power. A woman never forgets the man who can absorb her emotions without making her feel small. The man who listens without reacting. The man who's strong enough to hold space for her intensity without losing his balance. That's stoic leadership, not through words, but through composure. You show her that peace isn't found in silence. It's found in the man who remains calm when everything else is loud. And once a woman experiences that level of stability, every emotional man after you feels like noise. 5. Set emotional boundaries with grace. A woman telling you her problems doesn't mean you have to carry them. This is where most men lose themselves. They confuse empathy with responsibility. They think being supportive means absorbing all her emotions, fixing her mood, or constantly being her outlet. But that's not strength. That's self-neglect disguised as caring. The stoic man knows the balance. You can be present without being consumed. You can listen without losing yourself. You can care deeply and still protect your peace. That balance is what makes your energy powerful, and it's what keeps a woman respecting you long-term. When she opens up, listen fully. Let her express herself. But once the conversation ends, let the emotions go. Don't replay them in your head. Don't let her stress become yours. You're not her emotional dumping ground. You're her emotional mirror, calm, steady, grounded. If you carry her chaos after she's done talking, you've failed the stoic test. Boundaries are not rejection, they're protection for both of you. A woman may subconsciously test how much emotional weight you can hold. If you take on too much, she loses respect. If you take on too little, she feels unheard. The balance lies in listening fully, responding calmly, and then moving forward without clinging to the moment. If you feel her emotions beginning to overwhelm you, it's okay to create space. Say calmly, "Let's take a break from this. I want to talk when we're both clear." That statement shows maturity, not avoidance. It proves that you don't let emotions run the conversation. You guide it with composure. When you protect your peace, she feels more secure around you, even if she doesn't say it. Because deep down, women admire men who have emotional discipline. They respect the man who won't lose his balance, even when she's in turmoil. Setting boundaries also keeps the dynamic healthy. If every time you talk she unloads negativity, eventually your presence becomes tied to her stress. You must redirect that energy. After she vents, shift the tone. Ask a light question. Crack a soft smile. Rebalance the energy. That's leadership, guiding the emotional tone of the interaction. Never let her emotions define your state of mind. Your peace is your anchor. And when you protect that peace, you actually help her more. Because now she feels safe around a man who's unshakable, not drained, not reactive, just centered. A man who can be compassionate and have boundaries leaves a deep impression. Because he shows that empathy doesn't mean weakness, it means strength under control. She'll never forget the man who could listen, care, and stay unbothered. The man who didn't let her storms drown him, but instead reminded her that peace is possible because he lived it.
They get defensive. If she's anxious, they get frustrated. And that only feeds her chaos. But the man she never forgets? He becomes the calm in her storm. Being her calm doesn't mean being emotionless. It means you anchor her energy instead of matching it. When she's stressed, you slow your tone. When she's angry, you soften your presence. When she's overwhelmed, you make her feel safe just by being there. That's masculine composure, not by control, but by quiet strength. Here's the truth. In moments of chaos, a woman doesn't need logic first. She needs stability. She can find logic once she feels safe again. If you skip that step and rush into solutions, she'll feel unseen. But when she feels your calm presence, she naturally settles. It's instinctive. Women regulate their emotions through the energy of the man they trust. The stoic man understands this dynamic. He doesn't interrupt. He doesn't try to fix. He observes. He listens. And when he finally speaks, his words carry weight because they're not emotional reactions. They're grounded responses. That's the difference between an ordinary man and a man of presence. You want her to associate your energy with peace. Every time she talks to you, she should leave feeling lighter. Not because you gave her solutions, but because your energy reminded her of clarity. That's what makes you unforgettable, the emotional relief you bring. When you embody calmness, you shift how she perceives you. You stop being one of the guys she can vent to, and you become the man she trusts, respects, and feels drawn toward. Because calmness is rare, and rarity is power. So how do you cultivate that calmness? Practice emotional detachment.
Not coldness. Detachment. It means you observe emotion without getting pulled into it. You hear her words, but you don't let them shake your peace. You stay aware that her emotions are temporary, not personal. If you master that, you become emotionally untouchable. Not in a hardened way, but in a strong, peaceful way that commands respect without ever demanding it. And when you respond from that place of calm power, she feels something she doesn't feel often. Safety. Not just physical, but emotional safety. That's what keeps you in her memory long after the conversation ends. Because while most men added to her chaos, you became her calm. You didn't try to control her. You made her feel secure enough to relax. And that kind of presence leaves a mark she'll never erase. 7. Leave her with clarity, not confusion. Every conversation a woman has with you builds a perception of who you are, how you think, and what she can expect from you emotionally. When she opens up about her problems, the way you end that interaction determines whether she feels grounded or drained. A weak man leaves her confused. A strong man leaves her clear. Women remember how a man makes them feel when things get messy. If she finishes talking and feels more centered, she'll subconsciously connect that piece to your presence. That's how emotional attraction grows. Through consistency, not chaos. Here's the rule. Never let a conversation about her problems end in emotional fog. End it with clarity, calm, and direction. That doesn't mean giving a lecture or telling her what to do. It means saying something that restores perspective. Something that shows leadership, not control. For example, after listening fully, you might say calmly, "Sounds like you've been carrying a lot. You'll figure it out. You always do." Simple. Steady. No drama. Just quiet confidence. Statements like that remind her that she's strong, that things will pass, and that you believe in her ability to handle them. That's real reassurance, not emotional dependency. You don't need to fix her world. You just need to remind her she's capable of handling it. That's how you speak life into her mind without losing your masculine frame. Clarity also means knowing when to step back. After deep talks, don't linger emotionally. Don't chase validation with, "Did that help?" Or, "Are you okay now?" That kills the strength of your presence. Say your piece. Let silence do the rest. The man who can leave a moment gracefully always holds more power. Remember, mystery amplifies impact. The less you over-explain, the more she reflects on what you said. It gives your words weight. You become a mental echo in her thoughts. Not because you tried to impress her, but because you spoke truth and walked away with quiet confidence. Clarity also applies to how you communicate your own boundaries. If she brings drama repeatedly or refuses to grow, you must know when to withdraw. You're not her therapist. You're a man with purpose. The Stoic man never lets emotional cycles distract him from his direction. He gives support, not salvation. And that's what she'll always remember. Not that you solved everything, but that you stood firm. That even when she was scattered, you remained composed, present, and sure of yourself. When you leave her with clarity, she associates your presence with emotional stability. She stops seeing you as a listener and starts seeing you as a leader, a man who gives perspective when others give noise. That kind of energy lingers because every woman, deep down, remembers the man who made her feel calm when her world was loud. When a woman tells you her problems, she's not testing your intelligence. She's testing your stability. Every man can talk, but few can listen without losing themselves. The Stoic man passes that test by staying composed, grounded, and quietly confident. He doesn't rush, he doesn't fix, he observes, responds, and leads with calm presence. That energy leaves an imprint. Because long after words fade, she remembers how you made her feel. The man who becomes her calm sets his boundaries and leaves her with clarity that becomes unforgettable. Not because he chased connection, but because he embodied it.